Hi guys, welcome back to the weird side of YouTube. I'm your host, author DC Knife, and this is The Writing Rainbow. And today, Theodore is back. He's dressed like a biker, which is cool. And today we're going to be talking about the issue with adaptations when it comes to movies, books, basically anything that is adapted. Video games, you name it. And I'm very excited to get into it. We're not going to be talking about woke stuff in this. I already have a video about woke, quote unquote, woke stuff and adaptions and modern media. If I think it's there, maybe there. You can have annotation. Goodness, sorry. To that video, and if you want to, because it does have something to do with it, it kind of branches off of that, but we're not going to be talking about those topics because I already have a video on it. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about this, and I love you guys. Let's get weird. Alright, so the definition of adaptation is literally to adapt something to a new modern audience. It is supposed to change it to make it palatable for the modern day. But people get mad that adaptations are different from the source material, which is very strange to me. There's really no reason for that because that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be changed. It's supposed to be different. And also, if you want to just watch the same story over again, just watch the first movie or the book or read the book or play the game. Like, it doesn't make much sense to me. If you want the exact same story, just go back and consume it. Very, very strange to me. But people are very particular about it, especially on Facebook. I've noticed in the past few years, they want the exact same thing regurgitated over and over and over again, which, to be fair, I've known that about most basic American media consumers for a while, considering what they enjoy as far as storytelling goes. It's not great, but we're going to get into a few different topics here. First, we're going to be talking about video game movies. I've seen a few. Lara Croft Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie, which I really liked, but apparently it's quite different from the games. I've never played Tomb Raider. If I have, I don't remember it. I might have played it at one of my friend's house when I was younger, because I was a Nintendo kid. I did not have PlayStations at the time. I have watched a couple of the Sonic movies. I have not watched the third one yet. I do know that it's a lot different from the video games, considering Sonic goes to the real world, but a lot of people don't really mind that change. I understand that when that movie was first announced, they had a very atrocious model for Sonic, and people basically bullied them into changing it, which is kind of a good thing because he looks much better now. So that change was probably for the better. In the sense that they changed their minds and changed him normal. Also, Detective Pikachu is much, much different from the source material, but people seem to like that. I loved that movie. Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, not a video game, but very different from the source material, considering the bard is not a bard. He does not have bard magic, but he just sings and plays guitar. Next, Super Mario Brothers, not really different, well, very different from the games, because Princess Peach does not get saved. And this is, I've seen as kind of a split issue, because Princess Peach is, like, powerful, and she's the one that trains Mario. Half of the fan base I saw talking about how woke it is, and how stupid, and they won't support it. The other half of the fan base was really into it, and loved the movie, especially because of the references to the older games. I personally loved this movie. The next video game movies is a bunch. Resident Evil film series with the main character of Alice, very different. She has powers in the first half of the movie series, which I really love this movie series. But before that, during when I was watching these movies, I had never played Resident Evil, so it's very different. The movie is more action based, whereas the games are more horror, kind of slow. The Netflix series, I don't even know what it's called, but I did not like it. It's very weird, about the main villain's daughters. I did not like it. It was kind of cringe. Netflix is hit and miss for me though. Uh, and then Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City, which was, I believe, was in 2021. They were kind of rebooting the movies as a part of the franchise. I loved this. As someone that's only played a few of the games casually, I thought this was spot on. A lot of people were upset about some of the casting choices, which was like Jill, which was weird to me because she was a person of color. That's really weird to me, but I'm also the type of person that, as someone that was obsessed with The Little Mermaid as a kid, did not mind the casting of Halle Bailey in the live action remake. I thought she was perfect for the role, but that's just me. Silent Hill 1 and 2. Silent Hill 1 was great. Silent Hill 2 was not so much. It felt like a long winded music video. It was fun, but it was also basically just made for a 3D movie. It felt like a cash grab. It looked cool. The storyline was rushed and felt it was way too short. They should have fleshed it out a lot more. And finally, I want to talk about the upcoming live action Legend of Zelda movie adaptation. I'm really excited about this. So is Theodore. I love Zelda, in case you can't tell. I wear elf ears. I have like a background that's like medieval fantasy. I love all things medieval fantasy, Zelda just being the one thing that got me into it as a kid. I'm very excited about it. I hope they don't cast Tom Holland as Link because he's like 40 years old at this point, and to me, he looks it. That's just my opinion. I'm sure a lot of people are, you look old too. I am old, thank you. But Link is a twink. He needs to be played by a twink. That's all I'm saying. Legend Princess Zelda is beautiful, and I want her to be played by someone beautiful. That sounds awful, but it's true. I as someone who doesn't mind like race changes or like gender changes or um, sexual identification changes and adaptions, because adaptions, like I said, are supposed to be different and adapted to a modern audience. The only changes I would really like is if they have Sheik in it. I want him to be a trans male, because that's what I thought the it was. That's what I felt like it was during Ocarina of Time. I felt Sheik had transitioned physically from Zelda. Not that she identifies as a male, but she has magic. Why would she use all that super powerful magic just to change her clothes? That's very strange to me. I felt like she changed completely to male to hide, which is a cool idea for me. Also, I think Link was in love with Sheik. As a man, I think Link is gay, but that's just my opinion. I also think he has feelings for Zelda, though. In a lot of the games. Obviously, you can't really deny that. And which, why wouldn't he? She's gorgeous and sweet and very smart and intelligent. But the live action, I don't know how I feel about them race changing, even though I don't like the idea of Zelda and Link and Ganondorf being reincarnated over and over as the exact same people, in the sense that, like, the whole point of reincarnation is to live as a different being, to learn more about humanity in general. And I don't understand why Nintendo chose to make them reincarnate as the same white, straight, cisgender, blonde, blue-eyed beings over and over again, if that makes sense. From just a lore point of view of like reincarnation as a spiritual thing, it doesn't make sense to me. But at the same time, I don't know if I'd want them to change in the movie, if that makes sense. And I know that sounds kind of hypocritical because I really liked Halle Bailey as Ariel. But I don't know, I think the live action movie should just be Link and Zelda as how they are in most of the games. Well, all the games, really, if that makes any sense. But another adaptation I wanted to talk about, I might have to put this in a different spot, was Bridgerton. Bridgerton, if you didn't know, I didn't know this either, the book series is all white people, all straight people, all cisgender people, because it just makes more sense as a book. You get Shonda Rhimes to direct it and write and adapt it, and it's obviously going to be a lot more inclusive. And I love Bridgerton, the show. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, and I love it very, very, very much. But it has a lot of people of color, Asian people, black people. The new season coming out, I think the end of this year or next year, is going to have an Asian lead female character, which is as Sophie, which is cute. Recently, they decided to gender bend one of the male love interests into female and make the couple lesbian, and the people are very upset about that in my Bridgerton groups on Facebook. I think that's cool. It just makes them seem kind of hypocritical that they're cool with black people and people of color coming into the fray and playing currently beloved book characters that happen to be white. And being okay with something as fantasy-like as black people existing alongside white people in such a very kind of shitty time. I think that's cool. I think the world should have been like that in general. I think America should have been founded on a bunch of people coming together, different races, different genders. I think that would be the best form of America, but it wasn't, unfortunately. That's just how it is. That's how history is. That's how people are, unfortunately. We have a lot of hatred in our hearts for people that are different, which sucks. But people are also upset that they made, I forgot his name, Benedict, bisexual or pansexual. We're not really sure what he is. But I like that. It fleshes out his character, and not everyone needs to be the default boring white cis straight stupid. We're bored of that. We are very bored of that. A lot of people are, not even queer people. A lot of people are fucking bored with it, and you'll just have to get over it. I'm sorry. Next, we're going to talk about when adaptation goes wrong. Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power on Amazon. Second season was fantastic. I liked it a lot. It's getting a lot better. First season, not so much. It did not feel like Lord of the Rings. It felt like it was trying to way too hard to be Game of Thrones. A lot of people had issues with Galadriel being a swordswoman, a sword fighter instead of a magic user, which I did as well. I was hoping like something would happen and she would go through some character development where she never picked up a sword again, like some trauma or something, which would be really cool, and she just started relying on magic. I thought that would be really actually cool because it would give, character development. The issue is that none of it really rings true to the source material books, and that is, there's a fly on my thingy, gross. But it doesn't really, they can't, the Tolkien's estate won't let them use a lot of characters or a lot of storylines, which they hold it dear to their hearts, which I completely understand, but they're doing what they can with what they have and what they are able to, which I understand as well. But the Rings of Power season 1 was kind of atrocious. A lot of people also had a problem with a black elf, which is dumb as shit to me. Elves are fantasy, so was Ariel the Little Mermaid, and it's just really weird. Another thing I want to talk about under the adaptation going wrong is Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was fantastic until the last 2 seasons. And that is because they ran out of source material and basically had to make it up as they go, and they really wanted to just wrap everything up to move on to the next project, which apparently got canceled because everyone hated the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones. And I don't like what they did to Daenerys. If she goes crazy and becomes the Mad Queen in the books whenever they come out, that's fine, because I know the books will detail it a lot more and make it more believable. She was my favorite character. I called her Disney Princess Daenerys because she was awesome and I loved her. But there were bits and pieces here and there foreshadowing her downfall mentally, but I don't think they showed enough of it to make it believable, in my opinion. It looked like even from the beginning there were parts that looked like she was breaking a little. She was still holding onto her convictions and trying to be a good person, but there were still cracks forming, and I get that, that's foreshadowing, but just because you foreshadow doesn't mean you set it up properly to make it believable, as that's from a point of view of a writer. And I do blame that on their rushing of the last 2 seasons. Next is adapting fairy tales. Now, fairy tales have been adapted throughout history. Even the original ones have multiple versions. I think it's most common to adapt fairy tales. My favorite adaptation has to be Once Upon a Time on ABC. The writing is very convoluted and crazy, kind of like Kingdom Hearts, but I love fairy tales, and I loved having all these fairy tale and Disney characters interacting. It's really cool, and you don't really get to see a lot of that in media. I think it's becoming more popular now, and I'm actually working on my own version of that kind of universe where a bunch of fairy tale characters come together. But Once Upon a Time was convoluted toward the end. It didn't make much sense. I think a lot of people, Once Upon a Time fans that I've talked to, think that it should have ended after season 1, and that magic shouldn't have appeared in our world, and that the curse should have just been broken, and that would have been the end. I don't know if I agree with that, because some of my favorite characters came after that, including Ariel and Alice from the last season. I don't like the spin-off of Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, but that's just me. And something strange is going on lately, where Disney is adapting their own adaptations in the form of live-action remakes, which a lot of them are hit and miss. Like I said, I loved Little Mermaid. Did not like the casting of Emma as Belle in Beauty and the Beast. I liked Cinderella. Very excited for Lilo and Stitch, because Stitch looks super cute. But a lot of these adaptations are very hit and miss, and Maleficent was great too, though. They are trying to make them modern, like making LeFou gay, which he was like supposedly the 15th fucking first Disney character that was gay, which is odd. I don't know why they keep bragging about that. Like, just let it be. If it's not that big of a deal, just let it be. As a gay person, I don't understand what people are. It's an agenda. They're pushing an agenda down our throat. Gay people exist, and we've always existed, and it's time media reflected that. Just get over it. If you don't like it, if you don't like the way the world is, maybe you should stop existing. I'm just saying. I know that's harsh, but Jesus. I don't get upset because MAGA people exist. I understand that y'all exist and that you have your own emotions and feelings, even though how evil I think they are. I don't get upset because you're pushing an agenda. Everyone's pushing an agenda. The only agenda that queer people are pushing is that we exist and we want to continue existing. But also, this brings me to the new remake of Snow White by Disney. I find this trailer, basically everything I've seen of it, to be atrocious. The dwarves look like CGI monstrosities, which they are. The outfit and hair they put on the actress is abominable, abhorrent, and just completely unattractive. She's a very gorgeous actress, and they made her look super cringe. I'm gonna see it because I love all things Disney, but it looks awful. However, that is not the popular opinion of why people are not going to see it. The popular opinion is that she is Hispanic and that she's playing Snow White, which is really stupid, because Disney is changing the idea of Snow White to not be because she is a good and beautiful person because she is as dead looking as a ghost. They are making it to where she's a good, wonderful, beautiful, nice person because she's a good person. She's called Snow White because her soul is pure, which is cool, and I like that change. But, you know, other people are kind of racist and shitty, so. A lot of people don't realize this, but Kingdom Hearts is itself, an adaptation of fairy tales and Disney. Mostly Disney. Which is really cool, I think, because a lot of people didn't think that an adaptation such as fusing Final Fantasy characters, Disney worlds, and Disney characters with all this really cool stuff and the gameplay of an RPG would work, and it does, but it is actually an adaptation of other previous works. A lot of people don't seem to think that, though. Speaking of video games, The Witcher is a good example of things that get adapted over and over and over again. First, it was a series of novels, which was adapted into a video game, which is pretty rare, I'd say. I don't know if I know a book that went straight to video game before a movie, but it's really interesting. They also then adapted into the well-known Netflix series, which I adore. I do plan on reading the books. Apparently the first couple seasons were pretty close to the books, and then they strayed. That is the reason why Henry Cavill says he left. Other people say that he was kind of abusive on set, but that's neither here nor there. I wasn't there. I don't know. But I do not like that they changed casting for him. I don't know if I'm going to watch the last season because of that, but if they were straying from the source material, I didn't care. I enjoyed it for what it was. So, oh well. Sorry. The last thing I want to talk about is Wizard of Oz, Wicked the book, Wicked the musical, and Wicked the movie. Wizard of Oz source material is a series of books, not just the one that the classic movie was based on, which I love the movie. And the source material, there's a transgender Princess of Oz named Ozma, and a lot of people don't know that, and I really wish she would get adapted. That would be amazing. Wicked the book is a lot different from the musical and the movie, which are basically the same story. The book has crazy weird sex in it and violence and all kinds of awful things that I would not recommend for any child or anyone under 18 or probably 23 maybe. I have not read it, but I've read segments of it, the darkest parts of it, for this video, and it's very different from the musical. The musical is very lighthearted and warm and heartwarming and cutesy and pretty, and I love the musical. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I adore the musical, and I want to start reading the book, but again, there's lots of dark stuff in it that might trigger me. The characters go through some shit in that book, some awful shit. There's also a sequel called Son of a Witch, which is gay, and I kind of want to read that, but yeah, they took a pretty dark, it's kind of like Wizard of Oz horny fan fiction basically, but they took that and made a really cutesy musical and based a movie on it, and that's very different from the source material, but again, no one seems to care. Maybe because they don't know, but I don't really understand it. But again, the issue with adaptation is people don't like change, but the whole point of adaptation is to change it, to make it palatable for a new modern audience, and people just don't like that. People want the same regurgitated bullshit over and over and over again, even though that's boring, and they know it would be boring. They have every fucking inkling that it would be boring, but they don't care, because at the end of the day, the only changes that upset people is people of color, queer people, which is really shitty and just says a lot about America in general, especially where we're going with the current president-elect. But sad day, but that's all I have for the issue with adaptation. I hope you guys like this video. Check out my shop, prismaticdreams.com. Theodore loves you. He's a badass biker today, like I said, and I love you, and I hope you guys have a good new year. Bye bye.